Jimmy had worked his way up from the assistant public relations director to administrative assistant. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the 1974 season, Leonard gets up and says, I'm making Jim Murry the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles. Jimmy certainly wanted to win football games, and he wanted to see the Eagles win, and he wanted to get them to a Super Bowl, and he got them there. But he also never lost sight of the fact that there was more you could do. And I still remember really well the day when they opened the first Ronald McDonald House in West Philadelphia.
The number of people that Jimmy Murry and all the others impact each and every year is a true inspiration.
Hey Jim, I love you. And you've always been a real significant part of my life, my character, and what I believe in.
Jim, I swear, I think about this every single day when he would say that, you know something, Bill, when people help other people, that's what life is all about. Would you agree with that? Isn't that something?
I realized that, ordinary things are extraordinary because everything that happened because somebody else sacrificed.
Because it's all of our ideas, even if we think they're ridiculous, that if we put them together with other people's ideas, that's really what changes the world. Jimmy Murry has changed the world.
Please welcome Jim Murry into the Broadcast Pioneers Hall of Fame.
Wow, thank you, Larry, to be introduced by Larry Kane. Doesn't get any better than that. Well, I'm here to tell you the score of Sunday's game. Moving right along. The power of sport for good. Wow. I got to be the luckiest kid from 812 Brooklyn Street in this room. Because this is Jerry. Jerry, who's our leader, he makes Donald Trump look Amish. He's in charge. And you know what he's done? He's brought together all of us to say thank you for telling the Philadelphia story. I'm from 812 Brooklyn Street, down the street, 42nd and Lancaster. And God had a plan. I decided when we moved to Westbrook Park in Clifton Heights that I would become a priest, an Augustinian. And I went into seminary. Never been to New York. My father got stopped for going too slow on the Goethals Bridge. And in our junior year, 4 Irish guys got thrown out for something we didn't do. Sneak out and go to Radio City. And once again, the stories are too long. I just wrote a book. It's called Life's Inaudible. It was going to be called Great Things Start in Philly. But because of that, I went to West Catholic. And at my table, I met a beautiful little redhead named Renee Ruling. She was Renee Haskell then. She married my best buddy, Jimmy. Then the lady and the guy sitting next to them, Jackie and Mike, they're New Yorkers. We met at the racetrack. And who else did I meet at the racetrack? Steve Ross, his wife Karen. And wow, did that change my life. Because Steve came up with an idea a few years ago. He said, Murry, I got an idea for a radio show. I said, well, what's it about? He said, nothing. I said, well, I'm George Costanza. I could do that. He said, well, do it for 2 weeks. I said, all right. Well, 8.5 years later, one of our big listeners and best fans, a lady named Jackie, sitting beside Steve and right across from Karen, and next to a guy in my life who changed it also, named Anthony Stover. Who's Anthony? He's one of the rocks of the Ronald McDonald House. He's made more appearances and done more good works than he'd be embarrassed for me to tell. And right beside him is my namesake, Jim Murry, his wife Nancy, and his son Jimmy's a student manager, just like I started out at Villanova. He's down with Jay Wright, and he's a senior. And he's the quietest, tallest, best-looking Jim Murry. He really is. And when I look at the games, I don't look for the players. Hey, there's Jimmy. Let's see where Jimmy is. And you know what? How did we all get here tonight? Because Jerry had an idea, not just that this is the best organization, but this is a necessary organization. The guys behind the scenes, the people in the cameras, the people who we watch today posthumously. And I love Mike Jarrett because he defines what a lot of people in this room are being celebrated for. Great things start in Philadelphia, but people come from all over and they become Philadelphia. Yesterday, Mike did a beautiful story, a hard story on Big Daddy Graham. And it was one of the nicest interviews, but it kind of me, what am I going to say? I talk too long, I talk too much. I'm not here just to tell stories. I'm up here to say thank you. Mike, you did such a beautiful job. And here's a guy gets paralyzed on WIP, 2 o'clock in the morning. Great listening audience. Who's taking his place right now? A kid named Robbie Ellis. Who's Robbie Ellis? He's a guy who still should be doing TV. 20 years at Comcast. And you know what? That's the best of Philly. This is a tough business. It's a hard business. A lot of things happen in this business. But to see Mike talking to Big Daddy, and what happened? Big Daddy wrote a book. And he had a book signing last night. Now he's paralyzed. You couldn't get in the bar in New Jersey. I talked to my godson, to Robbie, on the way over here. I should have him sitting at our table. Because at the table that you're sitting at, your life is connected to each person. I could never, ever be here without my wife, Diane. Where did we meet? At a politically incorrect team called the Atlanta Crackers. Tim McCarver, a catcher, AAA ball. I was skinny, I had some hair like the nifty guys. And she pulled up in the worst looking Ford from Florida, but had the best looking legs. She's a dancer. I immediately said one thing to her, not hi or my name's Jim. I said, I'm going to marry you. Very Philly. Took a few years later, but Jimmy and Nance and the rest of my kids and their kids now are glad. So some of us and all of us who shared their stories tonight had the same story. One incident, one thing. I was running a bar in Malibu, and all at once my old boss, where I was a student manager at Villanova, said, you got 24 hours. He never lost his Boston accent, played for the Phillies and the Red Sox. He said, you want to come back to Villanova? And that was a hard decision. And I went up to a church called Our Lady of Malibu. Nobody believes it's even there. All the movie stars. And I said, you know what? My pop's still alive. Went to Roman Catholic. Worked in Houston Hall, taking care of all the kids at Penn his whole life. Never complained. Had asthma so bad, we were supposed to move out west. Dr. Lieberman, when the doctors came to your house, before you understood health care, he could do open heart surgery. He came to your house. And he said, you're so sick, you're going to move to Arizona. And it was like, remember when? I said, oh my God, I'm going to meet Gene Autry, Roy Rogers. We couldn't get out of West Philly, but God had a plan. And then I had a free ride to Penn because my dad worked there, but I loved the Augustinians, even though they threw me out on a bad rap. I said, no, I'm going to go to Villanova, $500, which we didn't have. I can't even buy a book for that. And all 5 of our kids went to Villanova. 2 of them bolted and went and graduated with the Jesuits at BC. But we're the luckiest people in this room. Not just because we're getting an award. Hey, it's pretty impressive to be in the Hall of Fame. And I look at this class, and I think about what Mike did yesterday. And I thought, here's another guy, didn't start in Philly, started in Kansas, but he's 100% Philly. They aren't just little videos up there. They're just glimpses of what each one of us who's been lucky enough to say thank you to Jerry. And thank you to all of you, because now on the same team. And that's what life is, a team sport. And the greatest call I made besides calling Diane was calling McDonald's. And that's why I even brought my shamrocks today. We had a thing yesterday. And you know what? Here I was, a guy who never passed biology at Villanova. And it always starts with one little kid. And we had a player, movie star, Fred Hill, married his childhood sweetheart, Southern Cal, tight end. Every woman that's loved would fall in love with him. And then what happened? What happens to each one of us? You get a phone call. You get a diagnosis. and his daughter Kim was diagnosed with leukemia. And then they saw the power of sport for good, because his neighbors started a charity called Eagles Fly for Leukemia, and that changed my life. And we had a fundraiser. We had an event, just like we're having tonight. And Leonard Toes, who, boy, the most generous guy in the world, even though he took a hit with 18, anything. Get Murry over here, okay. Find out what this is. It has our name on it. And the short version of the story is, I panicked. Never passed biology, couldn't spell leukemia. I'll do something Catholic, we'll take a collection up. So we did. 700 level, all $1 bills. I can remember us cashing them. But you know what? God had a bigger plan. I said, you know, if you're going to take people's money, you have to tell them where it's coming from. I said, I'm going to St. Chris's Hospital, and I'm going to meet this doctor. And I dedicate this whole talk to him today. And I said, well, it's Catholic and St. Chris's, I'll find the chapel. Well, they didn't have a chapel. They had a place that my wife wished I lived in, and the way Jerry wishes I lived in was called the Quiet Room. So I meet Dr. Lori Naiman. My side of it was a guy or girl. And you know how life is just what Jerry's done with this organization? If one thing goes wrong, we're not going to be here tonight. And Dr. Naiman said, I said, what do you need? He said, well, Jimmy, I just showed you. We need everything. This place is a disaster. And then he paused, and he said, but there's someone with a greater need. And I thought, this guy doesn't know if I have $5 or $5 million. And you know what? He said, go see a woman called Audrey Evans. She's the chief oncologist at Children's Hospital. So I drove down there in my bad car, bopped in and did a Jimmy Murry. Hey, Dr. Evans, Jim Murry, Philadelphia Eagles. Well, she should have been a Sister of No Mercy. What are they? I said, we're the football team. I don't know anything about that. Strike one. I said, well, we're on TV every week. I don't have a television. Oh, my God. And that's like Jerry needs for this organization. She said, we need cash. Oh, okay. We'll go see Mr. Toes. And the short version is we went to see Leonard. No concentration span. What do you need, Doc? Well, we have a room we have for kids. They need to be in a, how much? 50,000. Well, as I say, Leonard, no, how many rooms? 2. Well, that's $100K. But as I say, Leonard wasn't that. How much for the whole floor? And she didn't hesitate. She said the whole floor would be $1 million. Holy God. And she said, Jimmy will raise it. Holy God. Now I'm like, what do I do next? Well, because of you. And that's the short version of the story of the house that Love built. Because I didn't know what to do. I went to prayer, just like Jerry's taken this organization and formed it into making us all one. The wonderful sharings that have come up here. And I didn't know what to do. And I prayed about it. And I called a guy named Don Tuckerman, who's Oakman Advertising. I said, Don, what's your next promotion for Mickey D's? He said, your guy. I said, who's my guy? He said, Shamrock Shakes, St. Patrick's Day. I immediately do the Irish stuff. I said, can I get 25 cents from each shake for... You always have to talk to the Italian guys. Ed Renzi, Jersey. Okay, he became president of McDonald's. What do you want to do? And you did it. You did it. Because on October 15, 45 years ago, a little house on Spruce Street, the very first Ronald McDonald House in the world, was opened. And you know what? It's your story. And the best part of the story is the second house was in Chicago. And that's the Vatican. That's where McDonald's headquarters is. And once again, it's too long a story, but as we sit here tonight, I'm not into statistics. But there are, because of Philadelphia, and great things do start in Philadelphia. There are now 365 houses in 43 countries. There are 501,000 volunteers. That's what Broadcast Pioneers does. You don't know all the people you touch in the middle of the night. All the guys that came up here and gals that said thank you for making us part of this team. And then the third thing, she said, the girl in the first row works for a drug company in Chicago, and they just wrote us a check for $100 million. We're all trying to pay our rent, pay for our tickets. So don't underestimate the power of sport. So for me, being part of this team and being honored by Jerry and talking too long to get him upset, that I just said, You know what? We are the luckiest group God put together because this is Philadelphia. This is your story. This isn't my story. This is our story. So if you can remember anything from what I said, I met a family yesterday when I was there, a little 7th grade girl, and she was the inspiration for the perspiration. So that's what it's really about. One kid, one child, one family, coming to Philadelphia and saying, you know what? Not only did the Constitution start here, not only did great things start here, great things are still happening. So I thank you, Jerry, for the Broadcast Pioneers. I thank every awardee being married to this beautiful club. I thank Big Mike. Mike, last night, I just loved that interview because it defined Philadelphia. It wasn't just an interview. And that's what you all do. When you have an idea, you say, what? Come on our radio. Come on our TV. Get on Action News. Get on Channel 3. Yuki, Washington. Anyway, I'll end by saying this. I read something just a little while ago, and it really surprised me. It just said the word listen. And what's the other word, Diane? Silent. That's it. That's what she wishes I was. The word listen and the word silent have the same letters. So maybe on your way home tonight, you can listen to your heart and be silent and think about the stories that we heard, to think about the person that changed your life, to think about the kids that aren't here, and think about the gift of what radio and this company and this group and what Jerry and his team have put together. Jackie, who's part of our Remember When show. Gosh, my guy, Anthony Stover. God bless you all. Thank you for letting me be part of the team.